Temptation, I think, on the Feast of the Ascension, at least for me, as I prepare to preach about it, is kind of to think about, in relation to a lot of the other feasts, kind of like what's the major point there? You see the drama played out in Christmas, where God becomes a human person, and then in Easter, the resurrection and the crucifixion that takes place on Good Friday, all those kind of things. I think when I was looking for a common thread in all of these feasts, including the Ascension, I guess the thing that jumped out to me that I'd like to reflect on a little bit is, again, the relation between the body and the soul, both of Jesus but also of you and I. Because I think that's a huge problem in our world, right? That's the job of a priest as a preacher. You're supposed to kind of try and think about, okay, what is it that's out there that people struggle with, that I struggle with? What are those things that need to be addressed? And that can change, right, from one culture to the other. And I think a struggle that our culture has that really kind of can make the living out of our Catholic faith hard is the temptation to separate my soul from my body, right? That notion of I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious, right? Those kinds of things. What we see in Christmas, right? To think about the event that kicks all of this off in many ways, right? What do we see? We see God taking on a body, right? Taking on a body. And then, we can still be tempted to think, oh, okay, well, he's just kind of wearing a body as a Halloween costume. And he's walking around, but he's really God. But then he does Good Friday. And he's tortured to death. And then we start to think, maybe it's not just a Halloween costume. Maybe this body, maybe God really took on a body. And then what happens on Easter Sunday? They find the body gone from the tomb. Not the body still laying there. It isn't a voice from heaven saying, hey, I'm back, but I don't need the body anymore. So be good and be spiritual, and it's all about that. Don't worry about your body. No, the body's gone. And it's the body in which Christ comes to his followers. It's his glorified body, but it's still his body. It's the body that Thomas sticks his hand in and begins to believe. And then so today, with the celebration of the Ascension, what happens? It isn't, the apostles don't walk around and then find Jesus' body laying in the backyard and then say, oh, he must be gone now. He must have, now he doesn't need that body anymore. He's gone to heaven. No, they literally stand there and watch. They watch his body leave. All these events, all of them are, I think, to our culture in a special way, are telling us your bodies and your souls are one. They are one. They are inseparable. They are inseparable. And that's super important. Because I think, again, today, so many people think of faith, religion, whatever we want to do, however, as only kind of like this mental thing, this internal, spiritual thing just in my soul. Is my faith in my soul? Yes. Is there a mental component to it? Yes. Can I sin or do well and do the right thing internally in my thought life? Yes, there's a battle there. Absolutely. And that's very important. But there's the body, your body, my body, is part of that drama. Right? And Jesus wants us to realize that. He wants to show us that. He tries and does everything he can in his life to show us that from the very beginning to the moment today where he leaves. He's saying this body, your body and your soul, his body and his soul are one. The Nazis killed 6 million people, not with their thoughts. The Nazis killed 6 million people by using their bodies to do the killing. I can do great evil with my body, and it's not accidental. It's not, oh, well, that was just my body. I can get arrested for a DUI with my body. My body did that. And my soul was involved too. It's not, hey, officer, that was just a bodily thing. Right? There are so many things that I can do with my body in a negative way. And of course, when we think about it, though, in the positive sense, what Jesus ultimately wants us to think about, he isn't just saying, don't mess up with your body. He also wants us, I think, to realize, hopefully, and even more importantly, that on the flip side, I can also do great things, great acts, and my body is a part of that. Mother Teresa was canonized not for her thoughts. She was not canonized for what was recorded in her diary about her internal spiritual journey. Those things were part of her life. But she was canonized a saint because she took her body out into the streets and fed and clothed and cared for people who were dying with her body. That's what the Feast of the Ascension helps us to realize. The culture is out there telling you whatever you do to your body is fine. Do with your body whatever you want. And yes, maybe we'll grant that there's some kind of spiritual or magical thing going on internally with your soul. You want to call it a spirit. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. But they've already won if they get you to believe that. Anybody that believes that their body is over here and their soul's over there, the battle's over. We're already lost in a sense. Jesus very radically tries to remind at every turn and illustrate and show that our bodies and our souls are one, and it matters. That unity matters. And that's great news. Because one of the things that we find when we try to live this life where we don't think that what we do with our body matters, that we can just waste time, that we can do drugs, that we can do whatever we want over here, we can kill people, ultimately it's just bodily stuff, that there's a madness, a boredom, and a hatred for life that creeps in over there. And ultimately I start to think, well, it doesn't really matter. And there's nothing worse than when we start to think that our life doesn't matter. There's nothing worse than when we start to think what we do in this moment doesn't really matter. That's terrible. It's an awful feeling. And it is the antithesis of the gospel. Jesus is here showing us your bodies and your souls are one. So what you do tonight really matters. It's part of the drama. It's part of your life. It's part of who you are. What you do or do not do in your body, with your body and your soul together tonight has eternal consequences. And that's actually great news. It's the opposite of the boring message where you go home and tonight doesn't really matter as long as you have good thoughts. You can do whatever you want tonight. It doesn't really matter. We want to know that life has meaning. And Jesus is trying to show us that. Your life has a meaning. What you do with your body matters because it's a part of you. There's a unity there. And that's good news. And I think that's at the end and in conclusion, I think that's why the apostles leave the Ascension. And it says that they go in and begin to rejoice and sing praise to God because they see Christ leave. We would think that, watching your leader leave might not be something where you would go and rejoice. I think part of it is this rejoicing, and they get to work. They get to work. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's grab a shovel. It's time to go. Jesus is like, go on, get out there, use your body and your soul, and go save the world. I'm asking you to do that. And they do. They go rejoicing. And I think part of it is they realize, wow, Christ, his body was a part of his mission from the very beginning, and so is ours. What we do today matters, and that's great news. So let's go get to work. Let's stop living that lie that it just is a little, what I do with my spirit over here is religion, and then over here is everything else. Christ in every event, every major celebration, from Christmas all the way through today with the Ascension, one of the major takeaways is that our bodies and our souls are one. We pray to have the ability, the strength, the recognition to realize that you and I are asked to be followers of Christ, not just in our hearts, but in the marriage between our bodies and our souls. We are called to be followers of Christ in everything that we do, and that means that every moment and every action of our lives matters, and that is good news, particularly in the face of a culture and a world that's telling you that you have time and days and years to waste.